Welcome to the second of what we hope will be a 3-episode podcast series on this year's book for Visitation Parish, Binding Us Together, written by Alvin Brooks. This is season 4 of our parish podcast, Viz on Main. Today's unedited episode will focus on the themes of faith, community, and justice that emerge in Mr. Brooks's memoir. Joining me today is Father Tom Curran, president of Rockhurst University. Father Tom also graciously volunteers to celebrate Mass at Visitation. I'm Lorraine Gordon, a member of the Visitation Faith Formation Team. Father Tom, good morning, and thank you for joining me in this conversation about binding us together.
Good morning, Lorraine. Good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Given that you've read the memoir, Binding Us Together, I'm curious to learn your reaction, and more specifically, are there passages that you found very memorable or themes that you consider run constant throughout Mr. Brooks's recounting of his life?
Yes, I do. I think it's a story about a lot of things, but most especially I would characterize it as a consideration of the theological virtues, faith, hope, and love. And I think that there's many passages that substantiate that claim for each. So when I think of faith, hope, and love, let's start with hope. I think that Alvin has what I would call hope in our nation. That notion of, when I think of the movie, what was it, the Innocents, post-World War II, and after the European, from the Russians were coming in and liberating Poland, and tragic story there about the convent there in Poland, but the line that always stays with me is faith consists of 23 hours of doubt and 1 minute of hope. And when I think of Alvin, he is someone that I know personally that captures this, but truly has written of this, that he has hope, and I think his hope is in our nation. I think it really starts early on when he has this conversation. I think it's what I'm pulling up the book here, page 80, when his father and he are having this conversation about whether he should or should not become a member of the police department. Excuse me. Daddy, you know, a couple weeks ago when I was out to your house and I told you I was considering going on the police department, well, Carol and I believe if we just let the white folks define who we are, where we go to school, live, and work, who we vote for, we're giving them the authority and superiority they believe is theirs. I'm convinced there are times when you get inside and let others press from the outside. His father clearly was upset about this. I mean, Alvin recalls it as, what in the hell do you want to get involved in that police mess? You know how they treat us. But Alvin never loses hope in the possibilities, and even when he runs for mayor later, right? I guess what is it? I'm going to pull up another section here in the mayoral race in 2007. More specifically here, when he speaks about, sorry here.
No, it's fine.
When I lost my bid for mayor, he goes on, excuse me, my 31 years in Kansas City government had come to an end. As I reflect, I thank you, Kansas City, for 23 years in administration and 8 years as a member of the City Council. I've been truly blessed with so much love, respect, and friendship, but my journey of service is not over yet. So that, to me, is where he clearly has been this beacon of hope, that despite where things are, despite what he's experienced as a person of color, more specifically here in Kansas City, he never loses hope, and he has hope in our nation, hope in the prospects, but believes that you have to get involved with that. And the establishment of ad hoc that he speaks of so much throughout the book. And as being a beacon of hope, it truly has been recognized from time to time, right? So when he's recognized with President Bush, President Clinton, President Obama, clearly said, here's a member of your community who's this messenger of hope. So that's the first piece. I think that he clearly captures what that notion is of hope. What is hope? That for all of us, hope is that It's not optimism. That's not hope. Hope is believing you're not alone, that you're accompanied. And I think he's always captured in the way he lives, and most especially in his memoirs, that God is with him. And so that gives us hope.
Well, for someone who was told that he wouldn't live beyond age 6 and who is now 89 years old, he has reason to be hopeful.
I agree. Absolutely. And clearly, for all of us, we know him as a man of faith. Right? But he has faith in a very loving and a gentle God. A real gentle man. Think of the story of when he the experience of what Detective Dirty Bill Kenner.
Yeah.
And if I may, just read this little section from there. And it was clearly a situation where they thought he should do otherwise. They thought he should shoot the suspect, right, or shoot the person who allegedly appeared to have killed this Dirty Bill Kenner, and he thought he was going to lose his job. And then when he goes home, officer down, and then he says, "My prayer. I went to Carol's side of the bed and got down on my knees as I always did when we went to sleep together. I took her hand. She joined me on the floor. As always, we held hands. Carol always squeezed my hand so tight as though she was scared of something. She did the same this time, maybe even harder. I kissed her. We began to pray." This is truly a representation that believes in this loving and gentle God that does not leave him. Just, if I may, one other section here, the role that God has played in his life, and the very, very last part of this is that the bottom line to all of this is that early on, I knew the role God played in my life and that of my family. I believe I'm blessed. No, I know I'm blessed. God and I talk every night and every day.
Yeah.
Then recalling, of course, the presence of his mother. And it was great to read this in the book because I've heard him say this several times in public settings when he's sitting there reflecting in his garden and recalling how his mother would pick up the Bible. And so he writes, "Mama, I remember you picking up your Bible and sitting in that old lime green rocking chair with the wooden back and calling me to kneel down and place the side of my head in your lap. You prayed, 'Lord, please help my baby become the kind of man you want him to be.' Mama, I prayed out to be that kind of man you prayed to God for me." So, man of faith, and then, of course, the greatest of the virtues is love. Right? And his love is expressed. It truly is the notion of love, right? That we will the good of another.
Right.
You will the good of another. Expression of his love for his family, his daughters, his son, Carol, his biological adoptive parents, and it's just a love that, despite what has happened, how he's been treated, he continues to will the good of another, and I think that's just it's talk about preach the gospel and when necessary use words. Whoever said that. It's claimed that St. Francis said, but we don't know that for a fact. But whoever said that, Alvin lives that, and what a gift to have binding us together that reflects his memoirs. And so, long answer to that, but
That's
I think
okay.
it's really a story about the theological virtues.
Yeah, those are three very important. Those are central to us, right? Right. Well, it's no secret that you've been a very engaged member of the Kansas City community now for the past 16 years as president of Rockhurst. But I'd like to know what has been the nature of your personal relationship with Alvin Brooks, who's been active in so many roles in our city for decades.
So my relationship with Alvin goes back to my very early days here at Rockhurst. In fact, when I was inaugurated, he brought message from the mayor.
Oh, very.
So he was there at the inauguration ceremony, shared good tidings and good wishes, but he also had a challenge for me. He said, wished me well, but he wanted to remind me that even though I was a Philadelphian, I was no longer in Philadelphia, and if I truly was going to be a part of this community, he was expecting me to become a Chiefs and Royals fan. And I'd say I am. In fact, I did serve as the chaplain to the Chiefs for several years. So I at least did that part, Mr. Brooks. But it went on from there. He and I have been together in any number of religious and civic events over the past 16 years. He comes regularly to my class. And when he comes to the class, the students are just absolutely riveted on his stories. And the class goes for 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they don't want to leave. Yeah. Because they just really feel like they are in the presence of someone has incredible history, but really in the presence also of someone who's just a saint, a civil rights leader, but just a man of deep, deep faith. And I encounter him in everything, right from the sublime. I don't know if this is ridiculous, but he and I are both regular shoppers at Dollar Tree and Dollar General. So we've had a few conversations there.
The ones on Truth? The one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That's great.
So it's just a civic or a religious participation, whether it's St. Monica's or other places. But yeah, it's just developed into just a really cherished friendship.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'd had no idea how varied, how many dimensions of your relationship you had. On November 18th of this past year, at an event at the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, you announced the establishment of the Alvin Brooks Center for Faith Justice at Rockhurst University. Would you tell us a little more about the history of that initiative and what you foresee as its mission?
I'd be happy to. So every year, at the beginning of the academic year, we commence that year with an all companions gathering. So in our Ignatian heritage, we follow this notion that we are compañeros, companions, and that so faculty, staff come together and we focus on a particular theme for that year or focus. So in this current academic year, in our all companions gathering, in light of what was the racial unrest, the political divisions, the COVID factor, I really framed it in the context of where do we go from here? And where do we go from here, more specifically than recalling MLK's a book that he wrote literally the summer before he was assassinated in kind of his own retreat. And the book titled, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? Mm-hmm. So framing the questions for us, where do we go from here? Also shared the Let Us Dream, which was Pope Francis's reflections from the COVID. So framing these questions, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? Francis' exhortation to let us dream. And my response is that where do we go from here is back to our roots. And the roots, as for Rockhurst, as a Catholic Jesuit university, is to go into our Catholic intellectual tradition. And our Catholic intellectual tradition it's not asking people to make statements of faith. It's not a profession of faith, but rather, how is it that faith and reason intersect? How is it that in each of our varied academic perspectives and programs, what does it mean to be rooted in this Catholic intellectual tradition? And what it means, and clearly, is that it's a faith, if you will, that does justice. And emphasize that with going back to our, what's important to us as Jesuits, and we have a general congregation every time we elect a new superior general. And we elect Father Pedro Rupe, and then Father Rupe in General Congregation 36 spoke about it is a faith that does justice. So then announced as part of that we would this year, where would we go from here? We'd go back to our roots. Okay. And our back to our roots is in the Catholic intellectual tradition, and it's expressed in doing justice. Specific manifestation of that is in creating then a center for faith justice. We have several components and expressions of that already. Everything from our community center, where we have 30 groups that come into the campus, our mission efforts, our campus ministry, our prosperity center, which assists people with bankruptcy and wealth stripping and predatory lending. We have our prison education program in Chillicothe. Let's put this all under one umbrella, or put this in all one center, along with a chapel as well, and place it directly there on campus at 54th and Troost. And this will be the Alvin Brooks Center for Faith Justice. So it clearly states, as you're coming into campus, who we are. Jesuit Catholic University, rooted in our Catholic intellectual tradition, and our faith is one that does justice. Again, another long answer.
That's fine. No, I did want to better understand the choice that you made. And so it seems like it will be like a large umbrella that covers this. And there will be a new chapel?
Yeah, so we are planning, folks have come to me, supporters, benefactors, trustees, knowing that this is very, very important to me. This has been part of the legacy. This is clearly, I like to believe that how I've tried to live, how I've tried to lead, how I've modeled, and then wanted to honor me. And I said, the way you can honor me and my work is by helping us create this Center for Faith Justice, but we'll name it for Alvin Brooks.
Right.
And it is consistent with our strategic plan. So there was a component of the plan that ends in 2023 that spoke about being a convener in the community for issues of justice and all. So this is all coming together, and then went to Alvin and asked Alvin, would you allow us to use your name and be a part of this? And he said yes. Since then, he continues to ask me, so when are we breaking ground?
Sure.
But happy to share at this point, we're on our way. We wanted to raise $8 million for the center, so 6 for facilities and then 2 for programmatic piece. And so I just started having conversations with that in August, and then kind of a soft announce at in November, and we're a little over $4 million already.
Wow.
So once we raise the 6, we'll break ground for the facility, and we're fairly confident we'll be able to do that in the fall, and allow the new president to preside over that happening, possibly his or her inauguration or alumni family weekend. But I would think that it's reasonable to guess that center will be up and operating by fall of 2023.
Wow. What a great goal. What a great goal. You know, as I read about that evening's program, I noticed that you'd invited several Rockhurst University students to speak in a panel discussion that Rabbi Alan Lundy of the New Reformed Temple moderated. And I noticed that those students, their names reflected quite a cross-section of cultures, that they were enrolled in your course on Catholic social teaching.
Yes.
So here's my question. Would you share with us what it's like to teach young adults from diverse religious and cultural backgrounds about Catholic social teaching, and why you thought it was important that those students hear, that people there that evening hear from those students at the announcement of the specific center named after Mr. Brooks?
A lot of things intersect here. So I enjoy teaching that course. Catholic social teaching sometimes is referred to as the church's best kept secret. I think more adequately or more appropriately expressed should be this faith that does justice, and a way of proceeding. I see that our students worship what I call the cathedral of the streets. They're very much open to working in the shelters, the soup kitchens, the community gardens, the social outreach. It is in those experiences that we can extract why do we need these services? What are the principles here? And it really helps Catholic social teaching, the notions of human dignity and common good, to come forward. So the way I teach that class is we spend, not the traditional way where you would read the documents, from Rerum Novarum all the way up through the encyclicals, but rather we look at the issues and then what are the principles from those documents that are incorporated in the expression and the addressing of those. For the Catholic students, it's really a eye-opening moment, because they're like, wow, I didn't realize the Catholic Church was so engaged in this. This is like incredible. This is just, and it speaks to their experience of being what I call worshiping in the cathedral of the streets. To the non-Catholics, the non-Christians, this is, wow, this is great, and this resonates with my values. So I like to say that Catholic social teaching really is a great way of proceeding, and it provides a universal language that we can share, starting with these concepts of human dignity and common good. So having everything from having Rabbi Alan Landy, and we go to the synagogue and the students participate in Shabbat, that's where it's rooted in. We go to our notions of mishpat and justice in the Hebrew tradition. We go to Sherith Brook to spend the evening on Dorothy Day in the Catholic Worker Movement. We spend time at Harvesters. We go to the Jewish vocational services for the evening with refugees. So through the issues, then we can go back to, oh, this is the issue of subsidiarity, or this is the issue of the human dignity of the worker. So that it's a full course. Every year I teach every Tuesday nights. I say to the students, if it's Tuesday, it's Catholic social teaching. And so I ask the students, because at the JCRB event, Jewish Community Relations Bureau event, and they wanted to honor me and wanted me to speak. I said, I would say a few words, but I really wanted the students to speak and hear from the students to say, really, am I as effective as I hope I am teaching? Right. And allow Rabbi Alan Landy to moderate a discussion with them. So what did you learn? So that's why I asked the students. And so there's students from all different faiths, and students maybe not of faith, maybe a humanist tradition, but said this really spoke to them. And I think the folks many of the people that night were just so impressed with the reflections of the students and how thoughtful they are, and the course. And so that's it. Not in a nutshell, but that's all of it. Okay. More than a nutshell.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that while you were undertaking the process of creating the center at your university, that you had to give much thought to its name, and clearly the fact that you chose Alvin Brooks, because you've been very forthcoming about your regard for him as a man of faith and his lifelong campaign for justice. But I'd like to explain why you thought it was important to link faith and justice so prominently, so publicly in its title.
Yes, because so that it will be read as Alvin Brooks Center for Faith Justice. This notion that faith leads into justice, right? It's I guess Matthew 25, whatsoever you do for the least, right? And it's more than just charity; it's accompaniment. That is a major component of Jesuit education, and I hope that's a major component of the way we live at Rockhurst. It's a matter of accompaniment. And accompaniment starts with this notion of compassion. And compassion, and best definition I've ever heard of compassion, a working definition, is you're willing to enter the chaos. So to have that stated as you're entering the campus, that you don't have all the answers, but we're willing to enter the chaos. And together let us go deeper into our intellectual inquiry into what we're about. Rooted really, it is in the principle and the foundation of the spiritual exercises of Ignatius, the end for which we're created. And why are we here? What is this all about? Mm-hmm. So that's the process, or that's the experience I've been involved with in the work there, to state that, to have a place where we convene, where we have those conversations, where we have those practices, the community gatherings, the mission piece, the prison education piece we're doing. We're just in companionship, and truly people of compassion, willingness to enter the chaos. And that's the essence of Jesuit education, right? Oftentimes people say, we don't tell you what to think, we teach you how to think. and we respond to your question with more questions.
Well, as a writing consultant who does a lot of editing, I was struck by the fact that there's a hyphen there.
Yes.
And not an and.
That's correct.
It's almost as though they are so inextricably linked that you can't break them apart, even with with a conjunction that would suggest they're equal. That there's a hyphen. I just thought that was pretty cool.
You're absolutely right.
Pretty cool.
So our mission and ministry Vice President Cindy Smersel, who is English major, and I kept saying it's faith that does justice. She says the does is incorporated with the hyphen. Exactly right.
Okay.
So I'm glad I will share that. She'll be delighted to hear that that's exactly what is the way it is meant. Not faith and, but faith that does justice, and it's expressed that way.
Great. Well, before we wrap up this episode, Father Tom, I want to acknowledge, as you have publicly, that this is your last year leading Rockhurst University as its president. So I wondered if you would share with us what you are planning for the next chapter in your future.
So I will step down this summer. Very, very grateful for the experience. It's been a gift to be able to serve. It's been a transformative experience for me. I hope I've done a little good, but I know that it's been a great gift to me. So I'm going to take a little walk again. Did the Camino a handful of years ago, and now this summer I plan to do the Via Francigena. Right?
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to been given permission then to walk. My youngest brother and another Jesuit buddy, and I are planning to walk. We're not going to do all of it, but we're going to walk from Canterbury and hope to finish up at St. Bernard's Pass in Switzerland. So I guess it's about 2/3 of it, maybe 650 miles. Then I'll do a nice long retreat in the Alps there. Then from there, I will move on to Denver. And in Denver, I'll be living at Regis University. And my primary work now will be the coordinator for the province for our prison education. So we started a prison education program at Chillicothe. We call Companions in Chillicothe. We have a cohort of women and then a cohort of correctional officers. Very delighted to share today that they are now in their second year of college and working towards their associate's degree.
Right.
I'm working then with the other schools, St. Louis University, Regis University, Loyola New Orleans, Spring Hill, and St. John's, all the 6 schools of higher education in our province, and I'm being asked to be the coordinator of the prison education in those 6 schools. And then ultimately the plan is to have every one of our 27 Jesuit schools linked with a correctional facility. We say we're good at education. Well, we need to be in a place where there needs education. It's tragic when we think that we have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated. So we, as a Jesuit community, are committed, more specifically our province, that we have a universal apostolic preferences of the Society of Jesus. There are 4 of them, and the second one is to walk with the marginalized. And this is our province's commitment, the expression of that, and I've been asked to lead that effort and to, as my brothers say, they think this is very appropriate because growing up they thought I belonged, so now to hear that I'm going to be spending the rest of my life in prison, they said, this is perfect. Mom and Dad would think, yes, this is where you should be.
Well, I'm confident that those with whom you work with, your mentoring and shepherding, will benefit genuinely from your commitment, your generosity of spirit, and you will be deeply missed here at Visitation and in the Kansas City community. And I hope that at some point in time you will come back and visit us, and you will keep us in your prayers, and we will keep you, especially as you undertake that trek.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Right? Okay. Was it Francis de Sales, an early product of Jesuit education, said that those who go stay and those who stay go.
Well, it was his feast day yesterday.
Yes, it was. Exactly.
Yes. Right. So we've come to the conclusion of the second episode of Binding Us Together, and we hope you'll join us for the third, in which I'll be talking with Ramonda Dokes, a fellow parishioner of Mr. Brooks and the Director of Religious Education at St. Monica's Church. I want to thank Father Tom again for participating in today's conversation, and also thank the members of the Faith Formation team who've lent their support, especially Marietta O'Neill. The team would love your feedback on this and other episodes, so please feel free to leave a comment.
Thank you.